Okay, so we just learned about the three fundamental questions of economics, including what to produce, how to produce it, and for whom to produce it for. So before we go and make our own product, it's important that we understand one fundamental concept about economics, which is scarcity. So the different resources, including human, capital, and natural, which we just touched on, are all things that we have to think about when we're thinking about what product we're going to make. However, sometimes there is a limit to these resources, forcing us to make decisions and choices about what to produce and how to produce it based on the availability of these products, resources. This limit on resources is called scarcity. So scarcity happens when there are not enough resources to produce all the goods and services that people desire. So we live in a society where there are infinite wants and needs, right? We all want different things. However, we don't live in a society where there are infinite resources. So it's important that we understand this concept of scarcity because it's not a shortage, but rather it's a basic or fundamental and ongoing tension that forces us to make decisions about what we're going to produce. So a really good example of scarcity is my favorite fruit, avocados. So during the peak season, avocados are relatively cheap and they're pretty plentiful in the market. However, when the peak season goes away, the price of avocado goes up because there's not as many in the market. This isn't because of a man-made shortage. This is because of naturally occurring consequences, right? So that's scarcity. A shortage is when it's a man-made choice. So for example, the iPhone 10. Many of you want it. I know you do. However, they're almost sold out in every single store. This isn't because there's a scarcity of iPhones. It's a man-made decision made by the distributors to increase the want and therefore the price. So they made less of them to make people want them more. Okay, so go ahead and pause your video and answer the question that follows. Alright, so now that we have distinguished the difference between scarcity and shortage, let's think about how this will affect our own product. So, like I said before, it's important that we understand how these limitations on resources plays a role in how we're going to produce our product. So, let's think back to the example that I used about avocados. Take a second and think about the question that follows and jot down some notes in your notebook. Anticipate what would happen if I decided to start a guacamole business made with avocados, not during peak season for avocados. Go ahead and take a couple minutes to answer the question in your notebook. You can pause right here on the video. If you decided that my guacamole business would have gone out of business, you're correct, and you're starting to understand the idea behind scarcity. If I decided to create my guacamole business when avocados weren't during their peak season, I would have ran out of resources. Avocados are scarce at that time, so it wouldn't be smart for me to start my business then. It's important that we understand that there are limited resources that cause scarcity to happen almost all the time in our economy. In this lesson, there are three big concepts that I want you to understand about scarcity. 1. Scarcity is naturally occurring and something that we will always face in our economy. 2. There is a difference between scarcity and shortage. And 3. Decisions about products must be made with scarcity in mind. Posted below are 2 discussion questions. I'd like you to answer these questions by filming yourself on your Chromebook and uploading them to the Flipgrid app.